Hi, everyone. I'm Chief Business Officer with Bittrex Global and the host of our video AMA today. We are featuring Stronghold, and our guest today is Tammy Camp. She is the CEO and co-founder of Stronghold. Tammy, welcome. Thanks for joining us today. The Bittrex Global team is excited to be hosting you today, and we're excited about our partnership with Stronghold, and we're looking forward to learning more about the SHX token.
We're super honored that we're on doing this AMA with you guys today, and super excited about the partnership that we have moving forward. And you guys have been such a delight to work with. So again, just thank you for having us here today.
Well, thanks for putting up with our process. I know it's a bit intense, and getting through the listing process is not one we take lightly. So we're
absolutely
it just make it happen.
Shows the quality of the platform. It shouldn't be easy, right? all things, all the great things, are rigorous, and so we certainly respect the process. So,
well, thank you. So, for our AMA today, we have sourced questions from the broader crypto community and specifically our community at Bittrex Global. And I think, why don't we just dive in and see what those questions are? So I'll be reading some of them that come from the community directly. And I'll also kind of chime in and ask a few questions that I have on my own where I want to learn more, and I feel like our community might as well. And so before we actually get into that, why don't we kick it off with learning a little bit more about you. Would love to hear about your background, your team's story, anything you want to share about how you guys got the idea to create this project, and where you're at today with it.
Yeah, great. A little bit about myself. I've been a technology entrepreneur for 20 years. I moved to Silicon Valley in 2011, where immediately I went to this, I don't know, it's like nerd camp, if you will, called Singularity University. And it's all about teaching the next set of leaders how to, about exponential technologies and how to use them for the greater good of humanity. And we're supposed to positively impact 1 billion people within 10 years. So one of those classes that I was taking, there was like lectures, like TED Talks, one after another. One of the folks that I met there that actually taught me about Bitcoin in 2011 was a famous cryptographer named Ralph Merkle. So I actually learned about Bitcoin from Ralph Merkle, which is a famous cryptographer, and he's actually who on the Ethereum blockchain, who the Merkle tree Merkle is named after this cryptographer. So in 2013, I started building miners out of computer components, and it was Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Dogecoin miners in 2013, and programming them to mining pools. I was actually in 2013 the largest Dogecoin tipper on Twitter, so that was actually quite funny because I'm reading the tweets that I did in 2013, and I was giving away at today's rate $20,000 pizzas. In any case, because I was kind of good at kind of distributing that coin, I got tapped by Jed McCaleb, who is the creator of Ripple and Stellar. And I was the first head of growth at Stellar in 2014. We did tremendous work there. We did the Facebook airdrop. I don't know if you guys remember that, but I helped assist with that, and we put so many users on the network. I think it was 4 million users in a span of like 4 months, and we actually broke the ledger. So we had to do a complete ledger rewrite. And so while they were doing that, I went to 500 startups, and I was a partner there. It's a venture capital firm here in Silicon Valley, where I kind of ran the growth and marketing curriculum for all the Silicon Valley accelerators. I invested in the blockchain developer infrastructure and marketplaces there. So that was actually a fun time, because by the time I left, there were 1,600 portfolio companies. And so, being able to have that data set of what makes companies succeed and what makes companies fail was such a good learning experience for me, because typically you don't get to work with a data set of 1,600 companies. So I did that, and I also went to another venture firm after that called NFX Guild, and I helped them raise their first venture fund, and that's kind of where Stronghold kind of came out of, was my time at NFX. I did want to previously mention that I met my co-founder, Sean Bennett, at Stellar. He was actually the first developer on the Stellar platform. He launched on Stellar 6 hours after Stellar had launched in 2014, because he was previously a Ripple gateway in 2013. So that's how we met. I serviced his account. So fast forward to 2017, we thought that, the mission to kind of like focus on financial access, a lot of folks, namely like Ripple and Stellar, they kind of focus on cross-border payments. But payments is just such a large industry. And so we felt that there was still space in the market to really just provide financial access to several different verticals. And that's what we did. We were lucky enough, since we were the oldest team, to work on these, payment specific blockchain technologies like a Ripple and Stellar. We were super lucky to get, a contract with IBM right out the bat. So, for Stronghold, our first client was IBM. We're the issuer of the IBM stablecoin. I'm not sure if you remember that. So Chris, like the Bittrex, process of getting on was pretty difficult, but I can assure you the IBM one was like 10 times as hard. So we've definitely been through, all the regulatory audits to even, be able to serve that platform. And today, like, we still are one of the few IBM financial services and IBM blockchain vendors out in the market. And so that's at a very high level, that's kind of like how we started.
Well, it's an incredibly impressive background, and thank you so much for sharing. I don't know what was more impressive, everything you said, or the fact that you were one of the first Dogecoin tippers on Twitter. I think that might be the most impressive of the long list.
Yeah.
You mentioned a lot of really. Oh, go ahead. What'd you say?
No, I was like, I got to show you some of those tweets, because some of them are by like, I'm, tipping guys like Eric, who is a founder of I Has Cheeseburger, 4chan, and then Kevin Rose as well. So it's just funny. It really is. If you go back, it is me giving away like $20,000 pizza and beers.
Well, it's part of early adoption. I mean, that's what's going to happen. If you weren't out there giving it away, who knows if Doge eventually goes on its meteoric price rise.
I didn't expect it to go. Yeah, I didn't expect it
to go. What? Of course, nobody expected Dogecoin of all cryptos to take off like it did. I think I can give you a pass on not seeing the future on that one. You mentioned a lot of interesting things that are kind of near and dear to some of my experiences as well. At Bittrex, in the early days, I was integral in partnering with the Ripple team and trying to help them drive X rapid adoption and remittances.
Yeah.
And I was the PM at Bittrex when we rolled out fiat access for the first time. So being able to deposit and withdraw fiat and buy cryptocurrency. Up until 2018, it was a crypto to crypto only exchange. And so being able to interchange dollars for crypto means that I had to learn about, and I feel like I understand now, the pain of the challenges of traditional settlement of moving money around all too well.
Yeah.
So
It's
I
not
think
as easy as everybody thinks. Right?
no, it's definitely not. Incredibly challenging.
It is actually quite difficult.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I just thought I'd mention that you're in good hands.
Yeah.
And of course, I've heard of the Merkle tree quite a bit. So it's an amazing background story you have there. And in terms of your team, is there anything else you wanted to mention about the Stronghold team and any of their backgrounds? Because that was actually the second question I was going to ask.
Oh, yeah. Well, we have an amazing team to support our mission here. We've been able to, for example, our head of compliance is former KPMG, Deutsche Bank Trust Token, and Coinbase. So Vaishali, she's been in both the banking and crypto space for over a decade. So we're super thankful to have her on the team. We have our VP of revenue. We have like a ton of people that our VP of revenue, Ryan Smith, used to work at in commerce, so the Gap, Dollar General. So you can really identify with merchants in commerce and e-commerce. We have PhDs on staff. On the engineering side, our VP of engineering is from Evidation, which is a large healthcare company. He was like the sixth engineer there, but now it's a multi-billion-dollar company here in Silicon Valley. We have former early members of the Lyft team here at Stronghold. I mean, we just have so much amazing talent here. It's kind of hard for me to even grok the talent that we've been able to assemble here. It's really something special.
Oh, that sounds incredible. And I think it's a good segue to then talk about the future of the project, moving away from the history and everyone's backgrounds and taking a look forward. Can you talk a little bit about your team's roadmap and what are some of the key milestones?
Yeah. So why don't I start first with what we've achieved? So I think what really differentiates Stronghold is that we kind of did everything backwards, right? So we started off. We launched the token in 2018, but then we kind of decided to focus on solving the problem and having a customer set. So we have hundreds of businesses already on our platform. So we process millions of dollars of transactions a month, and again, we already have hundreds of customers. So from our perspective, we already have revenue. We're sustained not through cryptocurrencies. We actually have a real business. We have revenue that sustains a business. So I think that is super unique. I wouldn't, I think that we're, top quartile of that, being the case, because I think that, most companies or most projects, we're a company first, but most projects, start out with, focusing on the technology and then finding product market fit later. And we've just kind of done the opposite, where we have product market fit with our payments that, we serve in just, certain communities. And then now we're introducing the token back into our pre-existing ecosystem, which is pretty amazing. So that's, Miles, that's kind of like the baseline here, a little background there. In terms of introducing the the token back into the ecosystem, there's 3 use cases. So one, you know, for every business, we do a lot of payment processing. So we use ACH rails, we use card processing, debit. We're really all about interoperability because we think that those rails should work together. So we use traditional rails as well as modern payment systems. So like these modern ledgers, like a Ripple or a Stellar or a Solana or an Algorand, you know, things that kind of have a faster transaction speed, and we use those in an interoperable way. For our current merchant base, we we have a program. It's the rewards program. For every dollar that's processed through our systems, we actually give them a reward point. And those rewards, kind of like airline miles, can be used to either, can be used to for a discount of fees for their merchant processing, or they can hold it and just put it on their balance sheet. And, in the future, I think in the first quarter of 2022, we're going to allow them to be able to stake it and be able to earn yield on, on their balance. So that's use case number 1, rewards. Number 2 is decentralized finance. So we have a lot of SMBs that need working capital. And so, we're able to, since we're doing their payment processing, we can determine a risk score for these for these merchants. And so we have a program that enables us to give working capital to these merchants who need it. And then the crypto community can invest and stake it, and they can earn yield on the amount that we give that merchant capital for. So that's 2, and 3. Is going to be a couple years out, or maybe 18 months out, is that, there's going to be a governance program where holders of SHX can be able to, vote on some of the things and some of the features that we're working on in the future. So we're really excited about all those 3 use cases, and some are already live today.
I love the working capital angle. I think that's it's incredible. And I'm curious, what are some of the yields like on that? So you're saying it's DeFi in the way that you're pulling from that, but how exactly does that use case work?
Sure. So in current, in the traditional world, you would call it something like a merchant cash advance. And typically, I believe the going rate for some of the industries we serve are 7% per month. And so I think that kind of rolls into, depending on the loan term, 15 to 20%. But it really depends on the duration of the loan. So, it's definitely better than having your cash or your assets in a bank.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any partnerships that you want to mention before I move on to the next question? I'm just looking to make sure that we covered everything in the previous section.
Partnerships. Well, we
And
have.
if there's not, that's okay too.
We have a ton of.
A ton of them, yeah.
There's so many. So I think that where we kind of differentiate is that we have several channel partnerships, right? So we integrate into several point of sales, which are those pauses, if you call them, at in a retail shop. So we kind of integrate into those. We have we have e-commerce plugins. I think we're just launching Magento integration, a WooCommerce integration, a Xero integration. So we have those coming up. And then we have a partnership with Oduro. That one's exciting, which is a back-end infrastructure for all of the venture capital firms here in Silicon Valley. So that one's a really exciting one because all of the venture, the earlier stage top venture capital firms in Silicon Valley, use this back office platform called Adoro. And those guys are super excited because they get to, for every dollar that they process, they get to hold the token. So this is an easy way for, venture capitalists here in Silicon Valley to be able to hold the token without purchasing it, because a lot in their limited partnership agreements, some of them haven't been able to get access to crypto because their limited partners haven't allowed it. So this is a way for them to earn it, and so that's super exciting.
And that's a good segue into the next question, which is a little bit deeper into the token side of things. Can you speak to the structure of the project? Is it decentralized or an open source protocol where everyone can contribute? And can you talk us through the governance plan for either?
Yeah, so I would say that we're a developer on top of many payment protocols. So right now we're issuer on Stellar. You could be issuer on Ripple, Interledger, Solana. So we're really the developer on top of these platforms, where we do offer open source software that developers can contribute to. We're super excited about that. Is actually the plugins into like these normal business softwares, like I was mentioning, the e-commerce platforms. So us creating those plugins to Magento, to WooCommerce, to Shopify, to Webflow, things like that. Those type of plugins are actually open source, and we'd love for the developer community to help contribute to those, because ultimately we think, I'm a big believer that commerce is going to drive the adoption of cryptocurrencies. And it's not something that the retail user or the end customer really needs to see. I think it should just route in the most efficient way possible, just as if you're going through a regular e-commerce experience today. So I think that that's where we're going. We're going to see it not change behaviors, like it not change behaviors of how we shop and we interact with the world today. Before blockchain started, there was databases, and no one ever walked up to, say, Shopify and said, "Hey, Shopify, what's your database?" We really feel like blockchains are immutable databases. They're, they just keep a store of record in a way that's forever. And I think that we'll see in the future. We want to get to a place where we can just use the technology and it kind of be obfuscated from the end customer experience.
Something that a lot of the community is curious about is the financial side of Stronghold. You've talked about it a little bit already, but what are some of the ways that you generate profit today? And can you walk us through exactly how that works and how it's mutually beneficial for both the investor and the project?
Yeah. Like I said, I think that we're one of the few that we have a business. We have hundreds of customers on our platform, and it's very similar to how a Stripe would earn revenue or Square would earn revenue. We make revenue off of the merchant processing fees. So they range between 2.9%, and then higher in cases where it's higher risk, but that's kind of the baseline. And so if we're processing transactions, we kind of track total payment volume. So we're always trying to increase our total payment volume. And so the more payment volume that we have going through our ecosystem, the more revenue that we make. And we really think that, we're actually having a lot of people just switch their merchant processing because they're so excited about the token. And that's really, as a rewards program, because one, they just want a way to access cryptocurrencies. And so that's really driving the recent adoption of folks kind of like switching over to our platform. And then obviously the merchant cash advance is a big component of our revenue. If you look at Square, it's there. The information is public. Square Capital for the merchant cash advances. That's actually the most profitable business line of Square. And so, we're able to offer that working capital, and, that's what we're doing as well. So we do have a healthy business, and yeah, we're financially sound from that perspective. I feel like we're one of the few that are.
It's always nice to hear blockchain companies that are actually generating revenue. I wish it was a lot more common than it is, and hopefully it will become more common in the future. But it's amazing to see a real use case for a token utility for a commodity built into a real company that's driving real change in an industry that desperately needs it, in my opinion. So
we're really proud of that.
Yeah,
we've been looking at the space for a long time, so we've seen a lot of companies kind of iterate through the process, and so I think we've found a good way to kind of bring this forward.
Yeah, maybe we should look at integrating you guys as well. So maybe we should have a commercial conversation after this.
That would be great.
Yeah. I won't disclose who our vendor is now, but you can deposit using credit and debit cards into your Bittrex global account today from almost anywhere in the world. So just my little plug there. So as I know, and I'm not sure our audience knows, Stronghold is on the Stellar blockchain. It's a Stellar asset. And I think you brought up some reasons I can infer as to why that is, especially regarding your background and your connection to those founders and the quality of that project. But getting technical for a second, what were the reasons that you ended up choosing Stellar over other blockchains?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, we're a payments company, and Stellar was built for payments. And obviously we started out kind of building on top of Stellar for IBM. So it was very natural for us to choose that blockchain because it, one, fulfills the purpose. You can do, confirms transactions in real time in 3 to 5 seconds. And you can process, there's the throughput of, 3,000 to 5,000 transactions per second. So that is very good for commerce. Somebody can walk up to in a physical retail location, and if imagine there was a card and we need to process payments, then it would just be able to confirm while they were standing at the retail store. So it seemed very natural for us to do that. And I will say that we are we are agnostic, and we are big believers in everybody playing together as a community, because we really believe that things can be interoperable, or things have to be interoperable. So it's not that we're not tied to Stellar. So I think that you'll start seeing us on other protocols that have the same features, because I think that we're here just to kind of serve our business customers, and we're here to route payments in the most efficient way possible. And so whether it be Interledger or Solana or Algorand or Ripple or Ethereum or Bitcoin, we're really, or Doge, don't forget Doge. We're really open to that interoperability and serving our customer.
I like that. Don't forget Doge. I'm gonna
Don't
remember
forget
that.
Doge.
Don't forget Doge.
Because
Yeah.
Elon
One of the
might
highest
be
performing
accepting
blockchain.
Doge.
Yeah, it's easily one of the highest performing blockchains out there. Wink, wink. You got to get your dog coins in there. Okay. So if you had to pick a few killer features of your project that puts you ahead of your okay, so this is a question from the community, so I'm going to read this, and it's a little cheesy, but I think it's great. So if you had to pick a few killer features of your project that puts you ahead of your competitors, what would they be? And as an extension to that, what's the competitive advantage Stronghold has that you feel most confident about moving forward? Well, I like the second part of that question a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, well, I think I kind of touched on it earlier. I think that one of the few blockchain projects out there are, I mean, we're not even a project. We're like a full blown company, right? We have payroll and everything, and we have real customers. And so I think that that's really what sets us apart, is that we already have like hundreds of customers using our platform. And we are doing everything backwards and injecting our cryptocurrency and our infrastructure into our current merchant network. And so that just sets us apart. I can't think of any other project that does that today.
That is great. I actually had a additional question that's not on my list that I was curious about. So on your website, you mentioned clearing and settlement in seconds, not days, real-time clearing, settlements, and micropayments. And there's a picture of a woman holding a POS and looks like a transaction is happening. And as I said earlier, this is a topic near and dear to my heart, given my product management work and my background in getting some of these things stood up within my company. So I'm curious, can you explain how you're able to settle faster than traditional finance for the audience?
Yeah, sure. I mean, as I mentioned, the blockchain technologies that we work with, Stellar, Ripple, Solana, those are payment focused blockchains. They clear and settle in real time. So that's the secret sauce. I mean, we do plan on integrating within the United States with the new RTP networks. The clearing, like we're open to the clearinghouse, their RTP network, and then also FedNow, which is going to be launching, I believe, in 2023. But all of those real-time payment infrastructures are clearing and settlement in real time. And I'm super excited about that because, within our ecosystem, primarily, I could speak for on the US side, the most widely adopted payment rail is actually ACH, which, as you may know, is batch processing. And so, and if you look at countries like Australia and New Zealand, they have real-time clearing and settlement. So it's just kind of upgrading our the ecosystem within the United States that's actually still on a lot of banks are actually still on Cobalt, on IBM mainframe Cobalt infrastructure. And so just, kind of leapfrogging, because it is leapfrogging at this point, into a real-time payment infrastructure, whether it be, the clearinghouse, RTP or FedNow, or even, a blockchain technology will just, it will have the ability to have that clearing and settlement in real time. Like that's where I feel like, some of the world is a little behind.
And some of the technology, the payments technology that's in use today, like you mentioned, banks on Cobalt infrastructure just boggle my mind. And similar to the rules around ACH clawbacks, for a cryptocurrency exchange, you can imagine how difficult that is to accept an ACH deposit directly from a customer, because they can come in, purchase crypto, withdraw it, and then initiate a clawback on the funds, right? And it's part of the protocol. It's part of the rules. So there's nothing you can do to get around that except bake a risk premium into it, end up paying a higher or passing on higher charges to the customer to protect against that risk that we would take on to allow that kind of payment rail. These types of innovations can't come fast enough for the people that are participating in the payments ecosystem. I think that's where ultimately the value goes, and hopefully it ends up coming downstream, especially in remittances too. It's another area where people really get seemingly hosed, for lack of a better word, on fees when it comes to the fees that they pay to send money home. And it's just kind of sad that that's how inefficient the system is.
Absolutely. That's actually what got my co-founder Sean into blockchain in 2013. He's actually a med school dropout. He was a 19-year-old med school dropout, so he's kind of a genius. But he's half Filipino and half New Zealand, and he grew up in New Zealand. But his mom would go to the post office every week and send money home to the Philippines, and so there was a lot of fees associated with that. And so that's, kind of how he started in 2013 on Ripple, was trying to kind of solve that problem in cross-border payments. It's still a huge, problem. There's
I remember the XRapid team was focused on 2 major markets, I believe, at the time. We're just trying to make it work with us in particular in our partnership that we announced publicly. This was a few years ago. And coins.ph in the Philippines was the crypto exchange that I think we were targeting to help serve as an off ramp into, what is it, the Philippine peso, I think?
Yeah, Philippine peso.
And yeah, I was actually born in the Philippines. My parents were stationed there in the Air Force. And
nice.
I'll have to tell my dad the story of the med school dropout because he's a doctor. So I said, Dad, you should have gone into crypto. So he would have been like, wasn't around when I was going through med school, so wasn't an option. But well, let's transition into something that's a lot more boring, less exciting, but still incredibly important. Something I think we basically talk about every time we do an AMA. And that topic is security. So a lot of our community members are always worried about this, given what's happened in the space over the last few years to a number of projects. It's always important to give whoever we're interacting with an opportunity to tell us all about how secure their project is, any contract audits, what security measures Stronghold has put in place, and what sort of policies you have in place to ensure the safety of information and assets of your customers. So if you could talk a little bit about that, that would be great.
Yeah, that's a great question because, again, we started off with out the gate with IBM, so we had to come up with all of these systems and procedures to make sure that our project was secure, so much so that we had to get an audit by Promontory Financial Group, which is now owned by IBM, and we scored in the top quartile against banks, mini banks, mini payment processors. So that was quite rigorous. So we kind of started out in that way. I think what you're talking to, the recent history of folks kind of getting hacked via smart contracts. I will say that we chose Stellar and payment specific blockchains for a reason, because they are simple, right? They are built for payments. I love Ethereum. I think that there are many benefits to it, particularly in their smart contract, the smart contract functionality. But at the end of the day, it might not be a great place to do payments because the blockchain, specifically on Ethereum, is so expressive. Like, there's so many things that you can do with it, and therefore, it can easily be manipulated. And so I think that all the things that have been have had security issues in the past have been on blockchains that are more expressive. For Strongholds, like I said, we kind of focus on the chains that are payment specific, and so they're very tailored toward that. And I just, we haven't seen any of those security issues come up because of the way of the technology we've chosen for our payments.
Thank you for that answer. And yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say. I mean, I trust that you guys have done everything you can to take care of that issue. And I know how much work that we put into security at Bittrex Global. We've never had an incident, and we get maybe this is top secret confidential information, but North Korea and the like is after us all the time. And we store billions of dollars on behalf of users. So it's something that is baked into all of our processes across the business. And I'm sure you guys are the same way. Security is just paramount in this day and age. And I think if you do it right, you can really build a lot of trust into what you're doing with your customers, users, partners. And it's not necessarily rocket science, aside from the 0-day exploits that are out there, in keeping everything safe. So
yeah,
it's my security plug.
I think it's important. It's a great question.
It's important. It's important.
It's so important. Absolutely.
To do business with someone, you've got to have that in place. Otherwise, it's just a non-starter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a very rigorous process. Again, about 10 times as rigorous as it was to list on Bittrex.
Yeah. Well, you guys were a token on Stellar. Just the security processes we go through to integrate a new blockchain, like when Stellar was first integrated before we started listing tokens, it's 10x the effort level to do that, to ensure that we're not putting any of our users at risk, and we're doing it in such a way that we're not exposing anything. Because as you know, a centralized cryptocurrency exchange is a custodian, and most funds are sort of held in hot and cold wallet balances, and any kind of mishandling of security protocols or processes can lead to bad things, as many of the exchanges that have not taken security seriously have unfortunately found out over the years, as we've seen.
Absolutely. I mean, I think
those things.
That's really what sets Bittrex apart. And by the way, I've had, since I've been in the industry for professionally since 2014, I've had, my personal Bittrex account for that long. Yeah, I mean, that's what you guys are known for, right? Starting, your founders came out of the security team out of Amazon. So, right? Am I getting that right? And so, that is a huge differentiator, or has always been your differentiator, I feel like, at Bittrex. So that's why we're super excited about partnering with you guys.
Yeah. Bittrex was founded in 2014, I believe. Yeah. And I joined in 2017, but in 2014, there were a number of exchanges that were built by young kids that didn't have the kind of experience that our founders have. And between the three of them, I think they've got over 60 years, 80 years, something like that of security related experience across Amazon, Microsoft, BlackBerry. So yeah, we feel good about that. We feel we're actually the largest custodian in terms of number of blockchains and breadth of tokens and blockchains in the world since 2014. So we're pretty proud about that, and excited to list projects that take security seriously.
Yeah.
So moving on from security, let's talk about community support.
Sure.
And most projects, this is a question I'm reading here, most projects have programs that interact with their users. Do you have any special plans to attract and expand the community and improve the user experience?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, yeah, we actually have our community is actually growing 300% month over month. I think our main channel is in Discord. I think we have about we're just coming up to 8,000 plus members. So, you can interact with us there. I think that you'll see some upcoming announcements soon that, and we're going to be announcing them soon, that gives everybody the opportunity to kind of build on top of our payments platforms and integrate into our blockchain. So you'll start seeing more investments into the community there, as well as hackathons, so we can, really tap into the developer community to kind of integrate with our developer APIs. So you're going to start seeing more of those types of programs in the near future.
Yeah, that's great. And I feel like you have a couple of distinct demographics when we talk about your community and users. It's I don't know if it's the most appropriate language for Stronghold, because you have actual revenue generating customers, and then you have the crypto community, right? On the other hand. And merging those two together, I don't want to take any fire away from the revenue generating customers that may not be as directly tied to the crypto side of things as the crypto community is.
Yeah.
So that's exciting that you've got both. Maybe more difficult to pay attention to both and give both.
There's
the attention they deserve.
Yeah, there are two different audiences. They actually work. The whole plan is, they work together. Soon, but yeah, they will be working together soon. So there are two different personas, if you will.
And what are your targets in 2022? Do you have any plans to enter the NFT space at all?
Oh, the NFT space. Well, funny enough, I personally have already invested in NFTs. So we are looking into that space. I actually used to work with somebody at 500 Startups. Her name is Yi Lu. She was the creator of, I don't know, back in the day, Chris, like there was the Twitter fail whale. She's the creator of the Twitter fail whale, and then also all of those Asian food emojis in your phone. She added. She petitioned the emoji consortium. Yes, that's a thing. To put Asian food into all the emoji packs, because her argument was that there were more Asian people in the world that use mobile devices and they don't eat hamburgers and hot dogs. So in any case, that artist, Yi Lu, started an NFT collection, and I purchased the whale shark on OpenSea. So I have gone through that process, and so we are looking and watching the space closely as it grows.
I was just checking my phone because I did not know that there was an emoji consortium. I figured there might be, but I've always wanted to ask them why there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 train emojis. Does anyone know that? I just always thought it was the strangest thing in the world, because there's so many emojis I want to express myself with, and yet there's 11 or however many I said, 13 train emojis. So I kind of feel like I want to petition them on that to cut those down and add some other ones in. It sounds like the Asian
there is a process. It's actually not. It's not an easy thing. It's like a whole, it is like an open source like consortium where you have to like go and petition the consortium, and then they have to go through like a review process, and then they have to like vote on it. So it's it's a big deal. How
Yeah,
you express
it
yourself.
makes sense. Yeah,
So
whoever's working the train lobby is really really got a lot of pull.
well, I would
So,
imagine that on the train side, there's so many different types of trains. Like in Japan, there's bullet trains. Here, there's
yeah,
we have like
so,
uh, things that are considered to be as modern as things in Japan, and then they have Europe, and I mean, there's just like so many. You have to imagine that you're actually the audience is the entire globe, and so maybe there's like 11 representations of trains for each demographic.
I think you just answered my question in looking at these. I never thought about it that way, and I got to be honest, I was exaggerating a little bit because I did include trams in my count, so which probably isn't
That's
fair.
right. There's tons of trams in Europe.
There are trams, yeah.
In Amsterdam and Iceland. There's in a lot of the European companies. There's tons of trams. There's trams here in San Francisco as well.
That's true.
So,
That's true. I used to live there on Hyde and Bush. I used to work at DocuSign before coming into crypto in product marketing.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So really, like, what if you had to get a emoji added to? If you had to petition the emoji consortium, what emoji would it be?
Wow, putting me on the spot. Oh my gosh, that is such a big question. That we did not have enough time to wait for me to think through the answer to that. But if I am ever bestowed with such an honor, I will not take that lightly. That's sure. So
It's kind of cool. It's like no one really thinks about that, but it's something that we use every day. But it is art, right? And so
absolutely.
it's art that we use every day, but really it's an afterthought because it's kind of built into the infrastructure of our mobile phones. But it's actually quite fascinating how they get added. But that I can go down another rabbit hole with you at another time.
It's so funny. So funny. I think for now I'll just stick to complaining about the emoji I can't find when I need it, whenever the next time that is.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. Just one of those things that happens in the moment. I'm like, where is the whatever emoji? God, I want to use that right now. Okay, so getting back to the script and getting back on track, back on train tracks. No, just kidding. Following up on, I guess, milestones and the history of the business. COVID-19 has slowed down many economies around the world, including the U.S., of course. But as a crypto business that's also generating real world revenue from customers on the product side, how has this affected you, positive or negative?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think like anyone, here we were in what was it, February 2020. There were signs of it, and I think we were kind of prepping for it, and at that time in February 2020, and we were already kind of a hybrid workforce in any case, and so we transitioned actually quite gracefully to all remote setting, and we didn't, no one knew what it would do. And so we kind of battened down the hatches, braced ourselves. But then people needed to digitize in so many ways. So they needed to digitize on the way that they communicate with video. They needed to digitize on the way that we, store things into the cloud, and needed to digitize things like payments. And so what we saw at the start of April 2020 was just mass rapid adoption. So we went from like February, March of 2020 to being like scared and bleak, just like everyone else. But then in April 2020, I mean, we just saw like rocket ship kind of adoption, because if you look at the adoption of the innovation curve, I don't know if you're familiar with that curve. There's like the early adopters, there's the there's the innovators, there's the early adopters, there's the the late adopters, and then there's the laggards. And I think what COVID did as a whole for technology is that for from a digitization perspective, it really pushed over the late adopters and the laggards into just forcing them, right, to behave in a new way. And we needed that, and that forcing function really accelerated technology in many ways. And we were fortunate enough to be, in fintech, where everybody in the world, they need to be able to move money. Like every single person in the world actually needs to be able to exchange value. And so, we were just lucky enough to, be in a space where it really took off, and it really propelled our business, into where it is today. Yeah, serving hundreds of people. That was all built. A lot of that adoption was during COVID times.
Yeah, and I think that's a great aspect of COVID, positive or negative, to talk about, which is that adoption curve. I actually had a chance to meet Jeffrey Moore in person, and I have skimmed. I wish I could say that I've read it in its entirety, Crossing the Chasm. So yeah, very very familiar with that, and I'm really glad that you brought that up in that context and breaking down the user segments in the adoption curve. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I mean, just think about crypto. Like we were all, I feel like the innovators kind of came in around 2014, the early adopters around 2017, right? And then here we go. I still feel like we're
where
in
do you
the
think we're
early
at?
adoption. I feel like we're still in the early adoption phase of crypto, though. Like, we have a lot of UI
That's for sure.
features to sort out. But yeah, I think that it definitely accelerated things.
All right. Well, we're coming into our final question here, and I'm going to combine a couple of thoughts in the name of time. It's been a fantastic conversation. And I think this one is as important as any question I've asked, which is, if I want to support your project, can you tell us more about the ambassador program, and in what ways can I participate?
Right. We have, so sure. There are more details about the programs that we were launching, of how you can interact with our community on our Discord channel. I believe you can go to our Twitter, twitter.com/StrongholdPay, and find our Discord community there, or on CoinGecko or CoinMarketCap. And we have programs now, and several programs that we're going to be launching soon that incentivize people to build and interact with our platform.
Well, thank you, Tammy, for joining us in this AMA today. I learned a lot more about Stronghold and the SHX token. I'm sure our audience did as well. And we're really excited about partnering for the future, and looking forward to the continued growth and adoption of Stronghold.
Yeah,
so if our
thank
viewers,
you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. If our viewers want to learn more about Stronghold, please go to www.stronghold.co. That's STRONGHOLD.co. And thank you again, Tammy.
All right. Thank you so much for having us, Chris. And really, it's an honor to be on Bittrex, because I've, been a fan for such a long time, and a user. So it's really a big milestone for, not for just the company, but for me personally. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much.
All right.
We'll appreciate you guys.
Okay.